Hello and welcome to Live with the Pricing Lady. I'm Janine Liston, your hostess. First of all, let me start this episode by wishing you all the best in 2024. I hope you had some great time with your family and friends over the holidays and are ready and kicking off the new year well. Today, I am so excited to have a very special guest with us here. Her name is Ghizlane Arifine. Welcome, Ghizlane.
Thank you, Janine. Thanks for having me.
So this month, this is new for our listeners. So before I get into our rapid fire questions, I just want to set the tone here. So in 2024, we are going to be having themes each month. And this month, we are starting with the topic of the customer. Now, if you follow me, you know I am always saying pricing is rooted in a deep understanding of the customer. That's where price setting starts, or understanding what prices to have starts. And that's why I wanted to bring Ghizlane here today with us, because she is an expert in customer expertise, in customer experience. But she'll tell us more about that in a moment. I just wanted to set the stage for our conversation today. So Ghizlane, why don't we go ahead and start by, where are you joining us from today?
I'm from Zurich, Switzerland, based in Zurich.
Excellent. And what would you describe as your superpower?
What I would describe as my superpower, I think it's being multi-passionate person. So I'm passionate in so many different things. So basically, I love customer experience, as you can see. I'm into technology. I'm into art. So I think it's a superpower because it gives me the possibility to address challenges, problems in life from different angles, in different ways, and with a lot of creativity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Excellent. I'm also a person. I have a lot of different hobbies and things I enjoy, and it makes life exciting. That's for sure. What's one thing you'd like to share with us that most people don't know about you?
I think what most people don't know about me is that I studied fashion design. It was a long time ago. When I was a teenager, so I was in high school, and my mom enrolled me in that school of fashion design, which is offering evening classes. I think she wanted to keep me busy in the evenings after school, but I think it was very useful, so I could express my creativity, and it's still a hobby for me. So I love actually customizing and styling outfits for me and for my friends.
Oh, that's excellent. It's so funny how we can have so many different facets, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, why don't you share with us a little bit about what you do and how you came to start your business?
Yeah, so I always worked actually in corporate in academia. So I always had this dual career as lecturer, but also as a researcher in customer experience and UX, so user experience.
Mm-hmm.
Worked for a couple of companies the last few years, more big corporations, and I always had a freelance side where I did some projects here and there. And I'm basically doing the same thing this year. The only difference is that I'm working with my sister, who is probably she's watching me now. She's a digital marketing expert. And we had a couple of conversations this year. We realized that we can create synergies in our services. So me bringing the customer experience, she's bringing the digital marketing. So we decided to join forces. We want to actually bring those areas together in order to offer to businesses, small businesses, solopreneurs, this knowledge and tools on how they can enhance, they optimize their customer experience and use this area, leveraging it to design and implement successful marketing strategies.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, as someone who just I appreciate businesses who are so customer centric and focused. This like tugs at my heartstrings to hear about what you guys are doing. So I love it. I love it.
It takes a lot of time, though, an effort to educate small businesses to be customer centered.
Yeah.
But the difference between us, what we're doing, and between and with a classic and traditional digital marketing consultancy or agency is that we will be delivering marketing content, but making sure that it's consistent, will align on the messaging, on the branding throughout the customer journey and across all the channels basically that a customer will be using.
Okay, super interesting. I'm sure you guys are going to really enjoy this conversation. So why don't we start this conversation by talking about what is customer or user experience? What are we talking about here?
Okay, so customer experience or user experience. So we talk about the customer because this is the person who purchases the product or the service. And user is the one who is using. Sometimes they're not the same people, right? And they have different journeys.
Yes.
You know that. To define customer experience, it's simply the sum of interactions that a customer would have with a company of business throughout the journey. So we're talking about the phase of discovery. I'm contacting a company to understand what they're offering. I'm searching for information, to the purchase process where I would make the decision to buy, and going through the post-purchase, which is more about the usage of the service of the product and goes beyond that to probably loyalty, advocacy, I would recommend, etc. And this is throughout all the channels that a business would be using. So we're talking about website, interaction on the phone, apps. We're talking about store if it's a retail business. The idea of customer experience management is that we make the journey or the experience as seamless as possible, as enjoyable as possible, because we know positive experiences lead to repeat purchase, to loyalty, and definitely to financial outcomes, to positive financial outcomes.
Correct. Okay. I thank you so much for bringing up that difference between customer and user. It's one that a lot of people don't necessarily, take the time to think about, that there's often a difference between who's going to be using your product, service, or software and the person who's making the purchase. And in a lot of businesses, those can be two different people.
Exactly. And they're both important.
Yes, they are both important. Yeah. In a pricing context, we're usually focused on the customer, the person who's making the purchase.
Absolutely. And I think the pricing anyway is something that is relevant from the beginning of the journey to the end. Because we talked before about the purchase decision, and the pricing is a big factor. And after the purchase, we talk about the value for money. So we talk about what do you get for the price you're paying.
Yeah, absolutely. So how, in your experience or in your observations, does customer experience, assuming that it does, how does it impact value perception?
Probably I would like to clarify the value perception, because I think there is a lot of confusion. People understand it in different ways. The value perception is something that the customer estimates. So I am estimating if the service I'm receiving worth the price I am paying, right? This is all about the perceived value. Now, the thing with the value is that it's a lot of components in it. So it could be that I am thinking of the functional value. The product is solving a problem for me, right? So this is a solution. So it's functional. I can think of the emotional value it creates for me. Emotions. I love using this product. You can think of Apple, for example, of Tesla. And we can talk also about social value. There are many, many dimensions. So social value, basically, this is where the product would be helping you to belong to a community or to have a status, right? So all these factors would create the overall perceived value that the customer would build. And it's very subjective, right? So when we relate it now to the customer experience, I think the way you're perceiving or estimating this value is based on how you experience the product and the service. It can be, what means experiencing means probably the quality of the interaction. If you're going to an online retailer, you want to buy, I don't know, product on the e-shop, and you have very seamless, user-friendly website. You don't have frictions in your purchase process. So this is a great customer experience, and definitely you will associate a higher value to the product itself and to the brand overall. The same if you have, let's say you buy a product and you have a problem with it, and you call the company and they're solving immediately the problem. This is something that creates a positive experience because it goes beyond the product, right? Talk about personalization. There are many, many areas that would create this positive experience, will impact the way you're perceiving the value. So basically, good experiences will lead to higher perceived value.
Correct. So I'm curious about one thing, because recently I've been, doing a lot of research. I have an episode coming out next week on pricing trends and whatever. And one of the things I was looking at was, what is happening in terms of what customers want. And what I saw repeatedly in many places is people are, in part because people are, in a sense, they have less money to spend, but things are more expensive. So they're buying fewer things, they're being more discerning with their purchases, that the personal experience is actually becoming more important as we go into this year.
Absolutely, because this is why you see when you have like a personalized experience and pretty an outstanding one, it will justify premium price. So why? Because people associate actually the price they're paying to tangible elements, so to the product or the service itself, but also intangible factors like trust in the company, like just like in the brand. I like the brand, and they would be willing to pay for it. Even sometimes when the service fails or when you have issues, they're more willing to even forgive the company because they are very much loyal and they would justify this premium prices that they're paying.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've seen more and more myself. But I have to say it was something a lot of people, from what I was reading online, are really leaning into this year, or think is going to be even more important going forward. So that's makes this conversation even that much more important. Yeah. What are the risks for small businesses when it comes to this topic of customer experience?
Many risks for small businesses, because the point with small businesses is that they need to be agile. So basically, as a small business, you need to go through such a journey, changing your business models, changing pricing models, and you need to navigate this. And along the way, you need to be able still to deliver to the customer and meet the expectations. It makes it very challenging. So in terms of pricing, I would think of, if a small business doesn't consider the target audience and what they value, definitely you create a mismatch of pricing, for example. So you would have either too high price for the customer, so the customer would perceive basically your product as overpriced. This is too expensive for what it is. And with all the information we have available, it's very easy that the customer is running away and going somewhere else, right? Or you underprice and it goes too low that the customer would be skeptical. I would be thinking this is too cheap for what it is. So there must be some problem with quality or something. This is the mind of the customer, actually. The standard customer would always associate the quality to the price. So if it's high, high price means it's good quality. If it's low price means maybe it's too low. It's a bit tricky, it's strange. So this is a big challenge, I think, for solopreneurs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it's funny that you say that, because on the one hand, most people, when it comes to pricing their offer, they have this mentality, the lowest price always wins. It's kind of sitting in the back of their head. And yet at the same time, they will turn their nose at something that's too cheap and seems too good to be true. So, it's kind of a funny, what do you want to call it? Like those two concepts or thought processes are at odds with each other, right? I think that's really important. And no, it's not true. the lowest price does not usually win. Yeah, it really
No.
depends on the market. If you're in a market where the value that the customer is looking for is the lowest price, then it's different
Yes,
because
yes.
that's what's
Because
most
when you,
important to them, right? Yeah. The other thing I think it would be remiss not to mention here, at least in my experience, is that one of the big risks is that you develop the wrong solution. Yeah.
absolutely, yes. I think sometimes also, if we talk about the pricing, like specifically really setting up a pricing strategy, what I
Mhm.
see most of the time, like the biggest mistakes solopreneurs and small businesses do is that they set up a pricing from the internal perspective. So
Mhm.
basically, they look at the cost. Okay, I have a bit of margin, and that's fine. So all good. I have my pricing set there. The problem is they forget to ask customers how much they are willing to pay for their service, which needs to happen before the launch, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of customer research side of things where we simply ask customers or potential customers, are you willing to pay that price for that
Mhm.
kind of service, or how much can you afford for that based on your budget? So simple
Right.
questions, which makes actually your price become a bit more realistic, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this is not done, it leads to basically overpricing, and then at the end, nobody buys, and then there's a profitability challenge here. Yeah.
Right. Right. No, that's a very good point. So, what are the best methods that you find are available to be able to understand customers better for these small businesses?
So from the as a CX professional, so we work with a bench of methodologies. It will depend on the type of the
Mhm.
business, on the target audience, what they prefer as methods. If we take an example of, I mean, the most common one are surveys, right? We talk a lot
Mhm.
about surveys. There's a lot of debate. Is it a good methodology? People cannot answer surveys anymore. That's too much, and so on. But I believe it's used in the right way. You
Mhm.
can get good insights, use the right channel, sending it at the right time to the right audience with the
Mhm.
right interaction. You can get good insights that helps you actually understand how they perceive the price and how they perceive the value. Like
Mhm.
specifically asking questions, as we said, about affordability, about value for money, about if they
Mhm.
would be purchasing again or not, etc.
Mhm.
I would think of other methodologies like interviews, so we would go more in a deep dive with a limited number of
Mhm.
people. Solopreneurs, most of the time they use check-in sessions. You
Mhm.
check in with your customers regularly.
Mhm.
What's happening? A session dedicated just for feedback, and it
Mhm.
has integrated in the journey, obviously.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I can think in terms of if we focus only on pricing insights or methodologies, I always say we need to look into what the customer think and what the customer does, because they might think something and do something else, right? So
Yeah.
most of the time is the case,
Mhm.
actually. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's one of the challenges with, with pricing is that, people most of the time they don't understand why they do or don't buy something. A lot of the purchases that we make are done on a subconscious level. I
Yes.
always joke with people, why do you use cost to set your prices when it doesn't matter to the customer? And they say, well, what do you mean it doesn't matter? I said, well, when you bought an apple last time, did you stand there with your calculator open on your phone and calculate how much it cost the farmer to produce it and, the whole value chain? And they're like, no. And I said, right, because what it costs them doesn't influence your decision to buy.
Yeah.
What you paid for the apple. So you have to look at things in the right way. So I think that customers, a lot of time, we don't know why we purchase this over that until someone asks us the question. And even then, sometimes it's not real clear. More importantly, until you actually have to part with your money, as a person answering the question, it can be difficult to really.
I lost
you
you
know,
for a second. Sorry, Janine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I see you freezing there. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
What I was saying is that, until you have to take your money out of your pocket and actually part with it, you don't really know what you'd be willing to pay. You can make a guess, but you don't actually know. But there are methodologies out there to help get at that, correct?
Absolutely. I think you know better than me. We talk about value-based pricing, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So customer wants to know what is the end outcome of something that he buys. Let's say a product. I don't know. I always give examples with e-commerce because I like e-commerce. Um, if someone is selling, let's say, beauty products or organic, right?
mhm,
It's very important to educate the customer about the value, explaining the ingredients, why it's beneficial, what is the outcome of things, because then it gets clear in the customer's mind.
right.
He knows what to expect, and he's willing to pay the price, and there are no bad surprises.
Yeah.
This is more like the perception, let's say the psyche side of
Mhm,
customers, but we have the behavior, because at the end of the day, we want to know if they buy, if they don't buy, numbers talk. So
mhm,
what we do in terms of methodologies, just back to your question.
mhm,
So when you have a large customer database, we work a lot with models like I don't know if you're familiar with RFM model. It's in few words is like you look at how recent your customer has purchased,
mhm,
what is the volume of the purchase over a period, and how
mhm,
frequently he purchases. So basically, it gives you the possibility, if you do the analytics right,
mhm,
to score these and see what is the highly valued customers, and you can target them with premium prices.
mhm, mhm.
This is the work of the
Okay.
CX um,
Okay.
team, for example, or the CX
Right.
advisor. We would be looking into the behavior of customers, purchase patterns,
Mhm,
highly valued. We would target them with premium offerings. The ones who didn't buy since a long time, for example, but
mhm,
they're somehow buying regularly to a certain extent, we would target them with discount because it makes
right.
more sense to bring them back. With the bundling opportunities, we would look at
Mhm,
basket, what are the products
right.
they put together more often. So
Mhm,
there is a lot that comes from the customer in terms of
mhm,
behavior that
mhm.
you leverage for your pricing strategies.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I start wrapping it up, I have one more question for you. So, a lot of the people who listen to this show are, say, in the very early stages of their business. So, let's say if we think of startups, for example, um, what are the best or what differences? Because a lot of what you're talking about is you're talking about looking at historical information, how people have already
Mhm,
behaved over time. But if you're a young business, of course, you don't have that information.
mhm.
So what should they focus on as a methodology, or what would your recommendation be for someone who's in that startup phase of the business before they have that information to better understand the customer experience?
Okay, so if you start a business and you know who is more or less your target audience,
Mhm,
start with just a bunch of people, asking them about their expectations, their
mhm,
preferences, their needs,
mhm,
etc. And based on that, I know that many solopreneurs and many small businesses, they work with personas which are hypothetical because they don't have resources to do deep market research and gather so much information and
mhm,
then have really data-based personas to work with. That's okay. You can have hypothetical personas. This is the persona you think you are serving.
mhm,
What is important is to validate the personas along the way. It's a continuous process because
yeah,
people change, your customers change in terms of needs. And I always give this advice also in terms of pricing. Like when you start with your pricing model, it's not an end point.
mhm,
The sweet spot is dynamic. It evolves over time. I think you know it, but I think we agree on that
mhm,
together, is that you are moving with feedback mechanism, listening to the market, understanding what your competitors are doing, what customers are expecting. and adjusting, testing. You can do A/B testing, etc.
Yeah.
Until you get to the stable pricing, which will be anyway slightly moving and changing over time. So there is no one fixed point to find the sweet spot between a price that meets customers' expectations and your business requirements at the same time.
Right. I mean, like you said, it's something like you base so many things in your business. If, in my opinion, if you're doing it well, you base so many things off of the customer, but the customer is always changing.
Yeah.
And you may choose actually to shift who the customer is at times, or it may naturally shift as well. So it's not, again, it's not a one and done thing either. It's something that you need to keep a finger on the pulse of, this customer experience. And understanding your customers, you need to keep a finger on the pulse of that throughout the full life cycle of your business. Oh, I think you froze there for a moment.
Oh,
there we
yes,
go.
I was just saying the buzzword to be agile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
it's agile
exactly.
approach in startups. So
Okay, very good. So why don't we wrap this up with a couple more questions? If there's one thing you would like people to remember from our discussion today, what is it that they should take away?
I think to focus on value-based pricing. So if your question is related to pricing, and also be in the mindset to be flexible and agile. So I think it's very important to get ready for those changes and always have this feedback mechanism, as I said, keeping an eye on what the customer is doing and what they think, both together to adapt along the way. The pricing, basically.
Yeah, excellent. Do you have a book or a tool or something that you would like to recommend to listeners today to help them in their business journey?
I think like for startups and solopreneurs, I think of a book of Eric Ries. It's called The Lean Startup. I don't know if you know it. It's a very good one.
Back here somewhere.
It must be somewhere behind you. I find it really interesting because it gives really practical advice, tips and tricks to actually build up the business and grow with this kind of agile approach, resource efficient and customer centered. So this is very important. And he's bringing these 3 elements in the book, and it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. And last question, if people would like to find out more about working with you and what you do at Experience Metrics, where should they reach out?
I think they can follow me on Instagram. It's at experience_metrics with S. And yeah, so I'm available. And I'm looking forward to follow up on the conversations with them.
Super. This has been really wonderful, Ghizlane. I absolutely love this conversation, and it's right on target, as I said, with our topic of the month, which is understanding our customers. The customer is so important, not just to pricing, but to building a business and growing a business, whatever your business is. So thank you so much for joining us here today to share your wisdom.
Thanks to you, Janine, for having me today. Have a good day.
Yes. And dear listeners and watchers, if you're watching us live, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go, I'd like to let you know that I have my Fair Price Formula course coming up. The next cohort starts at the end of January, and you can get all the details at thepricinglady.com/set-my-prices, because that's what we do in the course. I wish you all the best, everyone. Have a great day. And as always, enjoy pricing.
Thank you. Bye.